In the dead of night, a broken king disguised himself and crept through enemy territory, not to meet a prophet, priest, or warrior, but a witch. This is not a story of fantasy, but one from the Bible itself. It's the haunting account of King Saul and the Witch of Endor, a tale of desperation, disobedience, and perhaps an actual ghost. King Saul, the first monarch of Israel, was once chosen by God and anointed by the prophet Samuel. He was tall, charismatic, and a powerful warrior. But over the years, power and pride began to rot his rule. He defied divine commands, sparing a defeated enemy king and hoarding spoils of war. Samuel, his spiritual guide and God's voice, warned him his kingdom would not last. Eventually, God rejected Saul, and Samuel withdrew, leaving the king to rule without divine counsel. When Samuel died, Saul lost not just a prophet, but the only man who could speak to God on his behalf. And as if that wasn't bad enough, the Philistines, Israel's sworn enemies, were rallying for war. Saul was terrified. He tried to speak to God, but silence answered. No dreams, no prophets, not even a flicker from the sacred Urim, the priestly stones used for divine guidance. God had turned away. With the enemy at his doorstep and no one left to turn to, Saul did the unthinkable. He ordered his men to find him a medium, a necromancer, someone who could speak to the dead. But there was a problem. Saul himself had outlawed all mediums and witches in the land. So he disguised himself in humble clothes and under cover of darkness went to a place called Endor, where a woman whispered to the dead. Imagine that. Israel's king, who once banished witches, now stood at the doorstep of one, begging for help. He asked the woman to summon Samuel from the grave. At first she hesitated, afraid this might be a trap. But Saul swore by God, ironically, that no harm would come to her. Then came the twist that chills readers even today. As the woman began her ritual, she suddenly screamed. She saw something, someone, rising from the earth. "I see a god coming out of the ground," she cried. It was an old man, wrapped in a robe. And Saul knew this was Samuel. What happened next is one of the most eerie moments in all of Scripture. Saul knelt, face to the ground. And then Samuel spoke. But this wasn't comfort. Samuel's ghostly message was grim. He chastised Saul for disobeying God and warned him that nothing had changed. God had already chosen a new king, David, and Saul's fate was sealed. "Tomorrow," Samuel said, "you and your sons will be with me. In other words, you will die." And Saul collapsed in fear. Now here's where the debate begins. Was it really Samuel? Some believe this was a trick, either by the witch or by a demonic spirit. After all, wouldn't God forbid necromancy for a reason? But the biblical text itself, 1 Samuel 28, makes it seem clear. This was Samuel. Even the narrator calls him that. And the message he delivered, it came true. Saul and his sons would fall in battle the very next day. So why does this story matter? Because it's not just about ghosts, it's about the silence of God and how terrifying that can be. Saul didn't turn to the witch because he loved the occult. He turned to her because he had cut off every other lifeline. He ignored the prophet when he was alive and sought him only when dead. This tale of the Witch of Endor is not some forgotten myth. It forces us to confront a deeper truth about power, pride, and the danger of seeking forbidden shortcuts when we can't handle divine silence. King Saul began as God's chosen, but ended as a man alone, grasping for shadows. Whether you believe the spirit was real or not, one thing is certain. In that moment, Saul wasn't just a king, he was a man haunted by his choices, his guilt, and ultimately by the ghost of the man who once anointed him.